What's up, guys? A while back, you might have remembered, I said that I was going to go for some easy content by going through the Guardian Tales Discord and seeing what the suggestions are, giving my feedback, my review, and how I feel how that would affect the game. I do have a little bit of game design background, not overly, but I have a very extensive business background in how people would monetize these sorts of things, what would it do towards community involvement. I'm generally pretty good at thinking about those things, so maybe I can add a bit of perspective to some of the ideas that you guys may have. Also, today I woke up and I wasn't really feeling like making a video, so this one seemed kind of easy. Well, if you like it, I'm down to do it more often. Let's see what this dude has to say. Exerong says, an auto-repeat category, auto-repeat, feedback. Add an option to continue auto-repeat when defeated. I don't want to restart a run just because my 90% safe team loses once, but it's pretty much able to run the stage without problem. It's a little bit annoying. So my thoughts on that is as follows. That's an okay suggestion if each time we hit the start button, it took away energy from us. But right now, when we hit that stamina button and we hit go, if we fail, it does not take that stamina from us. But you're asking them to dedicate their own AI bandwidth, which the machine learning processes and these botting processes take up more of their resources than you think. You're asking them to dedicate it to you indefinitely. And there's currently no mechanism in place for them to stop you from playing outside of stamina. So, if we were to implement this and do it in 2 failures in a row, you get stopped. That makes sense. But it doesn't make sense for them to just implement this on a defeated team that runs over and over and over again, because you want them to save their server resources for something else. We already want them to extend the live PvP times. We want them to extend the possibilities of things like co-op play. And so mitigating the amount of resources that they have to hog for people to be AFK, the better for the rest of the community. So I'm okay with this suggestion, but it needs additional context to it in order to spare them resources and time. Predator says, manual hardcore AI to do specific checks before doing specific actions for casting abilities. For example, check if there's an obstacle boss tornado before Eugene uses her ability and rushes into the tornado, which cancels her ability and makes her take damage. If the snake boss spawns multiple tornadoes, make the AI not hug a wall, and so on. After 3-starring the level, the currently brain-dead AI should be able to get through it without needing to be 20 levels above it in order to do the same. I know 13 people agree with this one. I strongly disagree with this one. The botted AI isn't there for you to just be able to do everything. They still want you to play the game. If we're going to implement perfect AI, then we should just have the button to simulate it completely and never do anything. Now, the reason why they want to do this is so you have time sink into the game. They don't want you to leave the screen. They want this to take up the bandwidth of your phone. It helps them with advertisement deals. It helps them with their metrics. It makes it more likely for you not to leave the game. And if they were to just simulate it completely, you would lose interest in the game a lot quicker. By doing things like this, by making the AI worse, you're more likely to do the higher level content on your own, which is good for the game. If you can just put their bot into a place to do all the highest level things on auto repeat without you ever having to touch the game, they're going to see more of their player base leave. So I don't agree with this take whatsoever. I don't think that I think a dumb AI is actually better for the game than a smart AI. I remember playing a couple games where the AI was actually better at the game than me. They played perfectly. So I don't want that in this. I want to feel like I'm in control of my characters. If I make them botted all the time, I'm going to lose that relation that I have with the in-game character. The more that they can get me to play the game and with certain characters in an enjoyable fashion, the more likely they are to get money out of me. And the more likely I'm going to get satisfaction out of the game. So I don't think I agree with this. I understand the convenience factor behind this one, and I understand why you would want to do this. It just doesn't make sense to me from a game design and gameplay perspective. Sin No Me says, while auto-playing a resource dungeon you've already cleared, let the game play in the background. Turn into and minimize windows so you can actively use other apps while waiting for the plays to clear. You can already do this if you're using an emulator, which I don't actually think is good for the entirety of the game. Similar to the last one we just talked about. But for things like daily resource dungeons and things of that nature, I'm more okay with it. But if we're going to go this route, they should just have an autocomplete button. They shouldn't even make you look at it. I don't see this in-between thing as a good idea. It should just be one or the other, and I lean towards the other, which is forcing you to play it. And if they're forcing you to play it, they should decrease the amount of times you have to play it or should play it and increase the rewards. They should give you more rewards for your dedication, and they should limit how often that dedication gets paid out. You don't want people to grind the same dungeon all day long. That kills everybody's enjoyment of the game. People like the grind. They like to feel like they're good at it. And the more ability you can introduce skill into a gacha game, the more likely it is to stick around. This is Chronomera. He suggests something someone else suggested made me think of other games. So the idea is a mode where you, the player, set up a labyrinth complete with traps, dead ends, enemies, maybe a hero, or other players can attack your labyrinth to try and get some extra gold/SP. Units and traps used in labyrinth would be otherwise separate from heroes and ideally obtained mostly gem free, with maybe a shop that rotates units every few hours but sells for gem/SP. The goal being basically more player versus player interaction on a tactical level with some minor rewards and maybe even a ranking. This would be a huge addition, however, so take it with a grain of salt, of course. Thumbs up, Coolio. Nice. 420, baby. So, my thoughts on this are as follows. I love this idea. I think that if they were to implement something like this, it being primarily a puzzle combat game, it could go over well. Now, I think the development sink on that is pretty large. When you give users the ability to completely customize, save, and then upload for others to play on, the amount of QA that goes into that is substantial. But I think if they were to do something like this, it would have a ton of traction. Now, I can already begin to think of a lot of the hurdles that it would overcome and some of the ways they could do these things. There is a lot of good design practices they could take to make this complement existing assets and features. And I think that it could be a really good risk-reward option for them to pursue moving forward. This isn't the easiest of content for them to do, but based off the events we've seen, they're not exactly pushing out easy content anyways. I really love this idea. I kind of want to see it implemented, but I do understand that it's going to take a lot of effort and resources, and it's going to be really buggy or it's going to be really simple in the first few months of it coming out. So if they were to do this, just expect that. It's either going to be filled with bugs or it's going to be so easy you don't know why they put it in place to begin with. Anywhere in between is a completely new game. It's a completely new game entirely. Feedback. Allow multiple builders to work on the same building. If you have one builder working and one free, you should be allowed to set the free one to help the one working to speed up the time to complete an upgrade. So, Sint, I would like to introduce you to a concept called Brooks' Law. Brooks' Law states that if you add people to an existing task, it actually takes longer to do. It doesn't go quicker. Now, granted, that's strictly for software development. Construction, maybe you could argue that it actually goes quicker, but still, Brooks' Law still applies in case of this. They already have that system complete. Systems like town building are designed in a way to keep you progressing at a rate that they can control. They don't want you to get to the end quickly. They want that to be something that is a trigger to get you back to the game. By allowing builders to get there quickly and freeing things up for free-to-play players quicker, they're more likely to convert you to spend crystals on getting that thing complete, which is bad for them. Also, this is secondary content anyways. They don't exactly help you that extensively anyways. I understand the thought behind this, but from a free-to-play perspective, it doesn't make sense for them to do it, and from a whale perspective, it Why would they want to restrict a whale from spending more? I don't see this ever being implemented. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I understand why it's a quality of life feature. I can understand why you would want it as someone playing the game, but it doesn't make sense from a design practice. Sill and Me says, the Guardian U and his or her party is mainly known for fighting off the evilness all around the world. But what if you went too far? The Abyssal Tower is a Colosseum-like type of mechanic, but you are responsible for the team formation against a team of heroes. Players are given a preset of characters to be formed on defending. Example, there's a Toxic Tower, Invader Fighter, Invader Archer that you are free to position against the main knight with White Beast. This is like the Invader Director's plot to deceive people, however losing a Guardian's trust, formulating the mechanics of a reversed orbital tower. Honestly, this sounds like tower defense to me, and it just seems like a reskin version of orbital tower. I think a tower defense based thing with the AI that they have could be easily implemented, where you get to be the invaders and you're trying to, or you get to be people from the homeland that are trying to fight off invaders, and you slowly get to add heroes to that cast of players that you have, but it should start you out with like townspeople and stuff like that. I could definitely see that being content that they could readily use that would be really interesting and be even like an entire event in itself, completely different campaign in itself that would be relatively easy for them to pull off. I don't know about the reskinned orbital tower idea, but I like the direction this potentially is heading, of you getting more static choices of fending off invaders / heroes. I like that that's where it's going. Maybe you get to pick a side for an event and go through this, and there's different storylines, and then later down the road you can pick the other side or something like that. That would be pretty fun. I kind of like this idea. I just don't know if I like it in the way that they wanted it to be. Curado says, add features in Arena like bushes where you can hide temporarily, a random buff in boxes instead of damage upgrades, like include defense and HP buff, heal buff, any buff other than our current one, and is generated randomly per looting boxes. Also a curse buff if you want to include. Boxes may also include terrain generating units, just to make Arena more fun and interesting in my opinion. I mean, people are already having a hard enough time chasing others down. People are already complaining that Arena is taking too long in a lot of cases. If we were to add elements like bushes, hide temporarily, random buffs and stuff like that, it needs to be a much bigger map, and there needs to be a different goal. Like maybe if the goal was that you're trying to find a way to like steal an object from their base, and you're running around and you're placing down droids and stuff like that that are tearing apart the base, making it easier for them to get to, and they're running around and they're hiding and stuff like that. That'd be really cool. But the boxes are there to try to force you to the center of the map so people can attack you. Whereas if, like, say Bari is sitting in a corner and you're a knight with a two-hand sword, you could just sit there in the middle and collect all the boxes until you can just run over and one-shot the Bari. That's kind of the idea they were going for. They were trying to create a system in which it is a similar balance between ranged and melee. Even though it doesn't come complete, ranged people definitely have the upper hand right now. That's the idea they were going for. So a lot of what you're suggesting, I don't think really helps in a lot of ways. But it gave me some ideas towards other type of arena gameplay they could go towards, and I'm not opposed to those things. But again, similar to what we were talking about earlier, the QA involved in those things would be pretty hard, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. And lastly, for today, we are going to look at Tusk Gloves. Game becomes too much pay to win with all the new packages, and I'm sure the newer will come out also. Give all players 50 free summons each event to balance things in RNG somewhat and not lose half of your players in a year or less. No. Look guys, it's a gacha game, and one of my biggest pet peeves of the community of gacha is they think that as a free person, they should be able to compete with those that pay. It's a hero collector game. There aren't a ton of mechanics that express skill in any gacha that I can think of. It is a progression-based system where they are monetizing progression. By demonetizing progression to this extent, I should add that caveat. To this extent makes zero sense to me. So Tusk Love, what I would say is look at what they're offering you. Do you get to open a 10 pool more than twice a week? If you are getting enough crystals to do a 10 pool once every 3 to 4 days, I would say that the game's in a healthy place as a free-to-play player. That's my thoughts. Guys, if you like this type of video, please let me know in the comments. Please let me know what your suggestions are, what your feedback for the game would be. Maybe we can go through that. I really enjoy videos where I get to think, where I get to do things off the cuff, where I can go on my rants. So if you are interested in that as well, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit that notification bell, and leave me some love in the comments, guys. Let's do this again sometime.